Hey everyone, I am up on my roof deck. That's why I'm not wearing a mask, because there's no one around here. Beginning of every semester, I would have a student or two that would confess to me that they cannot draw. And I would say, hey, you're in the right place, because drawing is a skill set. And like any skill, it can be learned. It's like learning to cook or learning how to juggle. So it's no different that drawing can be learned as a skill. So I would tell my students that everyone can draw. And the ones that are skeptical about their ability to draw, I would say, well, most likely you stop drawing. And then I would break it down a little bit. We all start off by scribbling. And at some point, those scribbles become a little bit more legible shapes. It becomes a little bit more symbolic, meaning that, hey, that's my dog, or that's me, that's my parents, or that's the house we live in. And then they go from symbols to telling stories. And then at some point, usually around 9 or 10 or even 11, they start to become a little bit more obsessed about things being more realistic. And it is that critical age or critical point where they either stop drawing because they're frustrated because things doesn't look as realistic as they like to be. And then perhaps they're not given the proper guidance or encouragement. So I'm going to show you a very simple, basic drawing exercise to get you started. And typically, we would do this thing live and outside or maybe indoors that we can draw the real space. But I don't know how to set up my camera and kind of make this production work. So I'm gonna go back inside and use a photograph. In your case, you may wanna spend the time outside and do this thing live. And obviously be safe and wear a mask. So I have my sketchbook here, and I'm gonna draw 3 squares. I already kind of put in some guidelines. And so consider this method kind of like training wheel. When you kind of first start to learn how to ride a bike, right? You might have training wheels attached to your main wheel. So consider this that method. So the training wheel method. Okay, so now we have these 3 squares and we're gonna select an image. And as I said before, if you're doing this outside, that'll be great. You can find out what image you want, but I'm gonna do this with a photograph. So if you're planning on doing this with a photograph, consider taking several photographs and select the one that you want. Before you finalize your photograph, let's talk about composition for a minute, and we can select why you want that image to be your drawing subject. So composition is really about framing how you see things or framing your thoughts. One of the more common composition method is using the rules of thirds. Now, it is not a hard rule, but it is something that can be easily done on your phone. You can turn on the grids, so you can literally use your camera and look at the world around you and see the rules of thirds. Again, this is not a hard rule. Obviously, if an image or a picture is symmetrical, you want that image to be symmetrical. And there's others as well that you can play around with. But I think the rules of third is a good compositional method for you to consider drawing your images. I'm choosing this image to draw because I think there are some interesting challenges that I think people might find it difficult. But I'll show you how to simplify and break this image down. So if you're doing this live outside, you would compose it into that square. So the first thing we're going to do is to draw major lines. Now, when you look at this picture, it might look busy, especially the roof line. And you're like, how am I going to draw the roof line? So instead of trying to draw all the little shapes that makes up the roof line, I would simplify it and just draw a straight line. Another thing that we should consider is that we know this is a one-point perspective, right? So that means that all the converging lines should go to one vanishing point. So what I'm going to do is literally just find out where the vanishing point is. So I'm going to say that this is my horizon line. And it looks like my vanishing point is about right here. So now I know that everything will kind of come back to this line, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is trying to find out where the roof is. And I'm going to say it's about right here. So instead of trying to draw every little shape, I'm just going to draw a straight line. So that is that other line. And we're going to maybe rough in some other shape. There is like a big bush right in the middle of the page. So maybe just draw that. Just draw that in. Right, and looks like about where the edge of the roadhouses are. And maybe just draw this little thing in here. So really just spent about a minute or less drawing these shapes. And then looks like the sidewalk about right here. And something like this. There is an element here, the tree. So that's my major lines that I just kind of roughed out. Okay, I'm gonna make it a little darker so that you guys can see what I just did. Okay, so I just transferred these lines above to the second square. So the second square, we're going to spend a little bit more time looking at how light is sculpting the image here. I just transferred lines and information from the first and second square to the third square. And now I'm going to spend more time looking at details of this third square and to draw this thing a little bit more realistic.